Mommy's actually bigger than Daddy. I don't know if you noticed. Daddy, get on my back. I'm going to squat you for the girls. He doesn't like that, but he'll participate. Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? A podcast for the whole woman. Mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real, usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Good day, listeners. We are back.
Hi, friends.
And yeah, Colleen is here. And today we have Miriam Burlakovsky, which her last name is so special that she has a visual representation that she shares with you when you ask how to say it. And I'll have to put it in the show notes or somehow put it on her Instagram because I laughed real hard. Miriam is a trained school psychologist. She's a behavior analysis, yoga, meditation, mindfulness-based stress reduction, trauma, and resilience-informed practicer. She is also the host of Mindful Miri podcast. Miriam is on a mission to empower 1 million women to feel amazing in their bodies without dieting or deprivation. She's a highly rated speaker and coach with over 25 years of public speaking experience. And she is like a bright light. So Miriam, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, we're so excited.
Miriam is a wealth of topics that we could speak about. We asked her to talk to us about being an overwhelmed mom and weight loss, reducing weight when we are overwhelmed and super busy and crazy. We've talked about this before. Colleen and I are more to love. We're real soft hugs. And, you know,
Absolutely.
I'm fine with that, except it is getting a little uncomfortable to move around the world occasionally. So that's really more my focus in health. But because I want to remind everybody that's listening right now, the way you look is the least interesting thing about you. And you're incredible just the way you are. But if you find yourself in a body that is uncomfortable to carry, some of this conversation will be for you. If you're a parent and you lose your shit more than you'd like, this conversation's going to be for you. So Miriam, please help.
Miriam, fix us.
Gosh. Okay.
Fix us.
Magic wand coming out.
Yeah.
Okay, you're fixed. Kazam.
Ta-da!
Thank you.
That's great. I feel great now.
All right. So that's a wrap. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Let's stop overeating and under exercising and yelling at our children. So there you go. You're fixed. You're healed.
Yeah.
Gosh, my life just got so much better.
Right? There's this SNL skit with I'm gonna date myself, but like Bob Newhart, that like he's playing a psychiatrist and people keep coming into him and they're like, well, I really need help. I keep perseverating all these thoughts. And he's like, okay, stop it. And it's like, and they're like, well, he's like, you're not cured yet. It's $1 a minute. Like, are you done yet? My name is Miriam. I wear a lot of hats. One of them is mom and stepmom. I have 4, sometimes 5 beautiful children. And I'm a school psychologist, licensed educational psychologist, behavior analyst. Like, so I basically all of that means is I teach yoga. I am an expert at behavior change in others, especially those with autism, but also fitness wise. And, you know, I have expertise in learning disabilities, in school systems, in a lot of those arenas. But let's tackle overwhelmed moms today, or not tackle them. Let's embrace them.
Let's hug them.
I need to be tackled.
And give them a nice hug and practice self-compassion. A couple years ago, so let me tell you a little bit about my weight loss story, or my weight, what should I call it?
In hypnotherapy, they call it weight release.
Yes, weight release, because you don't want to lose anything, right? We don't like losing things.
Mm-hmm. We want to release it.
Release it. So I went on my very first diet when I was 8 years old. And came from a, somewhat tumultuous home environment. I have 4 or 5 adverse childhood experiences called ACEs. So that is what we call trauma. And I believe that
Mhm.
those are closely linked to my weight struggle. And I just wanted to be loved and accepted and to please everyone, right? I saw a Slim Fast commercial and I thought, oh, these ladies look great and I need to look great so that people praise me. And so I started on that journey at 8 years old. And
2 shakes a day and a meal. That's so easy, right?
I mean, it's
Like,
so easy, right? And then I went through, I've done a lot of different diets. I was an athlete. I was a gymnast. So that's a lot of being the tallest, heaviest gymnast in the group is a difficult. Yeah, you too.
yeah,
Is a difficult
yeah.
thing to do when I'm the only one who can't do a pull up, right? Because I weigh 30 pounds more than every other kid. So I have been on a journey trying to love my body and trying to make peace with myself and food, and healing my adverse childhood experiences through all kinds of different therapies. I decided to create a program for myself to take all of the research. I just was on a hunt. I'm a seeker. So I was on a hunt for all this information. I used my psych background, I used my behavior change expertise and put it all together. And I created a program that I recorded my own voice and started listening to it myself.
Okay.
And it brought me such comfort that I started coaching other people on this same methodology. And my whole premise is that I believe that trauma causes disconnection from your body, and the research
Sure.
supports that. And
Mhm.
so instead of always treating the symptoms, which are overeating or the obesity epidemic that's happening, I wanted to really treat the root of the problem, which is body disconnection. I needed to really be in my body. And that's how I got into yoga and mindfulness. And healing that connection has really helped me understand why I'm eating, why I'm maybe skipping a workout here or there, or why I'm overdoing it. And
Mm.
also, it has led to a lot of eye-opening experiences in terms of why I'm people pleasing, why I'm creating myself as a martyr, as a mom martyr, as a
Yeah.
professional martyr. And all of these things are related. I'm working on a book for the methodology, but I do have an app and
Mm.
I listen to it myself every day. It's like I created my own cure and I'm just like curing myself over and over.
Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, it sounds magical, but like we're obviously not waving the app in front of our faces and all of our body fat is disappearing. So like talk to us a little bit about
Right.
what yeah, that'd be amazing. Like, but what does that like if we're to download your app, which we would love for people to do, like what are we going to see? What are we going to be doing?
Well, I call it the Body Freedom Formula, BFF. And
Love that.
what you're what we're hoping to do is be your own BFF for your body. I have several different modules. I have I call it like the 6 weeks to sexy, and it sounds nice or whatever, but
Catchy. Good
it's catchy.
marketing.
I love alliteration. So that's mostly me. I start out with, how we got here, and just one of my lessons is pretty is not your purpose. Like, you are not here put on this planet to be pretty for others. Like, attractiveness is not your main asset. That's the least, I think you said that earlier, Colleen, is that's the least important thing about you or interesting thing about you.
Yeah, that's Cheryl's
And
slogan. But isn't it interesting that that's the thing that we're taught so early on? Society and like a patriarchal society, if you will, is like,
yes,
well, you better be pretty. And if you're not pretty, you're bad. Like that's what we're told very early on.
yes. And like nobody's going to want to be your friend. You're not going to be loved. I start with compassion. That's our main thing is if we don't have compassion for ourselves, there's no way that we are going to grow. I see it in my students. If they are not feeling good about themselves, if their teacher does not believe in them, they are not learning. So we are not growing as humans unless we are being positive about ourselves and we believe in ourselves. No matter how much you want to white knuckle it, we are not going to get anywhere if we're not, loving ourselves.
When I was young, I was told constantly how beautiful I was, and to the point where like it lost all its value. I was like, this is just what people say to everybody. And sometimes I wonder if I've gone to where I have with my weight. Like I certainly have some aces of my own, but I sometimes wonder if I've gotten to here with my weight because I was just like I disconnected from beauty in some way. Like I don't like it's not important and it was all people saw.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
sometimes I wonder if that is where I got to where I am now.
And it's so interesting, Miriam, you're talking about like the gymnastics thing resonates with me so vividly. I don't know what the word is, but so
Yeah.
strongly.
Mhm.
Especially, I don't know. I mean, like growing up in the 80s, I'm 41 now, but like
Oh,
growing up in the 80s and 90s, gymnastics was like a really popular thing. And there were a lot of
mhm.
really popular gymnasts. And I mean, I was, like I'm 5'6" now, right? And so I was like, just like you said, like taller than most of the girls and bigger than most of the girls. And
Yes.
that culture was so awful. I'll just say it was so awful. Like my coach told me when I was 6, you said you were started on a diet when you were 8. I started when I
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
6. Like
Oh my
I was
gosh.
told next time you want to eat something, just eat half of it because you're eating too much. And it's like
Yeah.
to tell that to a child, like now that I have children, I'm like, to tell that to a child is so intense and so fucked up by,
Mhm.
like, but those are the things that you know become so impinge you as a person so early on in your life that then yeah, like your value, your worth, your confidence becomes about your body. And I think we've talked about this before, like trying to not have, like, my goal for me, and now I have a daughter, is like to not have attention on my body, right? Like I'm in my body, I'm here, I like to look beautiful, I like to do these things, but
Mhm.
it's not the most important thing that we're working on. And I don't want to be constantly like moving my shirt and pulling up my pants and like making sure I'm sitting so that my gut's not showing. Like those are the things that I would like to not be doing. And those are the things I want my daughter to never have to feel like she has to do. So how are we doing that? Like how are we doing that through your teachings or your practice or your app? Like is it all mental or is there physical aspects to those things?
The inner work is the most important. I think connecting your body and mind are and soul, spirit, if you want to go there. I do, but not everybody. It's not palatable for everybody. But I really think that we are non-physical beings inhabiting a physical body right
Yeah.
now, and in this body, I mean, this is. I think Glennon Doyle says your body is not your masterpiece. It's a paintbrush. So
Hmm.
this is our vehicle to get through life, and we're going to take care of it. And if you don't take care of it, then it's not going to serve you well. Now, many of us have been trying to take care of it by under eating or over exercising or later binging on sugar or something like that. But basically our bodies are keeping us safe. That is our number one job, is our body wants to keep us safe. So if it feels that there's a calorie deficit, it is going to go into overdrive and say, oh my gosh, there's a famine. Hey, there's a famine. Hunger, hunger, hunger hormones, right? And then not only are you going to regain whatever you lost, but you're going to get more. I mean, we lose muscle in that process of releasing weight. And then we also regain more than we lost typically, because your body thinks that there's going to be another famine and wants to prepare for it. So really getting to the source of mindset and feeling safe and really reconnecting with that body and making just swapping some choices, slow swapping and building muscle. I am not a fan of calorie restriction at all. I had a blood test done where I was doing like the keto diet, right? Like all these keto paleo. And it was like, you actually metabolize fat slower than the rest of the population. So I'm actually better at metabolizing carbs, number one.
Okay.
So is the wrong diet for me, right? Which is,
that means
I'm not the only one. That's like a lot of the population is probably going to be more carb friendly than fat friendly. And number two, I did a blood test where it was saying that actually calorie restriction does not work for me. And
I
I'm
need
like,
that blood
okay,
test.
so now what?
Yeah.
Right? So what do I do? But I'm happy and I'm at peace. I'm about like I mean, I'm 5'9". I'll be just like fully transparent. I feel like vulnerability is strength, so I'm just going to go out there and do it. I'm about 195 pounds right now. I'm 5'9". 160 is like I'm skinny. So I'm never going to be that girl who's like 115, 120. That's just not
But
my body
also,
type.
such a small amount of the population is 120. Like forever on my driver's license, I had 125 as if that was the weight that I was supposed to be. And I'm like, I haven't seen 125 since junior high. It's just not my body type.
Yeah.
And I
don't
was
know.
banging at 17, but I was over 150 pounds already.
Yep.
I don't know
It's
who
just
decided that 115 to 125 was the ideal weight for women, but that is a number that is so prevalent. Like you see it everywhere. Like not see it everywhere, but that's like the goal for everybody where, you're like, okay, but also are you 5 feet? Like how tall are you? What's your muscle component, like structure? So crazy.
I'd love to see 180. And you'd all be like, wow, she's thin. She looks really strong at that weight. But that number is big compared to what people think that a woman should weigh. I mean, my husband is 150 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like our bodies are just different. The other day I was looking at new clothes and June, my baby, I mean, the pants are big. I'm in a big body. And she's like, those are daddy's. But I also think how funny it is in their minds that I'm bigger than daddy. He's only an inch taller than me and I weigh significantly more than him. They see daddy as bigger because he's the man and I'm the woman, which is, and they've all done it at different stages in their life where they've been like, well, those are big. So those are daddy's. And I'm like,
right.
Actually, those are mommy's. Mommy's actually bigger than daddy. I don't know if you noticed. Daddy, get on my back. I'm going to squat you for the girls. He doesn't like that, but he'll participate now. I've broken him down.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. When did we? I mean, we do have these implicit, an implicit bias against, certain body types, certain weight numbers. And why? When did that get programmed in?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean,
who
I remember
decided
it was on my mom's driver's license too.
Yeah. 135 was my number.
But I know for a fact she wasn't weighing that,
Yeah. My mom was always 135 and I was always 135 because also just FYI, Cheryl, you do not have your weight on every driver's license in every state. California is rude and they put your weight on there. Not every state does that.
California would. We're so
They
vain here in California.
I don't think my weight is on my Indiana driver's license. I don't think it's on there.
Wow.
Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
That's interesting.
But
It
that is
shouldn't be.
such a
I don't know
thing.
why.
Yeah, growing up, like you're like, what weight am I going to, as a woman, it was always, what weight am I going to put on my driver's license? What should I put? Like what seems realistic, but obviously I'm not putting my real weight. Like no one's doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Like in the off chance,
Yeah.
in
What's
the
the
off
officer
chance that
I'm
I'm
not
a
arrested for
criminal,
lying?
right?
Yeah.
And they put it on the TV. Like, what weight do I want on there?
or you go missing, right? Like, listen, if somebody tries to find me based on what my California driver's license said, like, good luck. Like, it's just not happening.
Yeah. They're not going to find me. Okay. So it sounds like your method for finding the weight you want is one, becoming at peace with your insides and like maybe kind of letting go of the weight that you want and just like making healthy switches.
It's really about reconnecting to the body, healing your trauma, and increasing the likelihood that you're going to practice the habits that you want to practice. That's really what it comes down to is how are you setting yourself up for success to do all the things that you want to do? You know, women come to me and they're like, well, I want to be on time for things. That's a major stressor. And that has nothing to do with weight, but that's a stressor that they're eating around, right? And
Yeah.
okay, so what kind of environmental factors are keeping you from being on time for things? Because that's a major stressor that is easily remedied. Like we could just, if you get there 5 minutes late all the time, then we'll just set your clock back 15 minutes. You know, they're just tangible actions that we can take to reduce that stress. So we're working with stress. We're also feeling our feelings, and that's a big one.
I
So,
hate feeling my feelings. It's the worst.
oh, don't we all?
It's the worst.
I want you to talk a little bit more about this time, because this, when you said that, like my brain was like, bing,
Yes,
my
let's hear
brain
it.
exploded, whatever. When you talk about like, I feel like I'm always rushing and I'm always trying to hurry and don't want to be late. And a lot of that is like, especially as a mom, and I have 3 kids like Cheryl does, you know, like today we were 10 minutes late to a haircut because my son didn't like the shoes he was wearing or the socks that he was wearing. So it's other people. But then what's the cycle of that? Like what's the spiral of that is, well, now we're going to have to eat something quick, or now we're going to have to go and get something quick through a drive-through, or now we're late, so I can't make a full meal. And that is such a really intense spiral. And maybe you could talk about this as well when we're talking about overwhelmed moms, like that part, to be able to do all the things, do them on time, feed everybody, and like figure out all of that stuff is such an interrelated thing that I didn't even really kind of think about until you said that, right? Is like, what the hell,
It's all
man? Like,
related.
that's so challenging.
It's all related. Yes. So I'm deliberately slowing my voice down.
You don't need to. I talk really fast. I'm Greek and Italian. We just do it.
It's really about slowing down. And if you're able,
I don't like that answer.
I know, right? I am very much a go, 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 naturally kind of person. And I overwork, I overdo things, I overthink. I think that a lot of women are overwhelmed because of those reasons. Just overdoing, overthinking, overanalyzing, rethinking, perseverating on things that you've already done, and then things start to become your identity. And it's difficult, not impossible, to change that. We have to. Well, when I think about habits, and I do think that rushing is a habit.
Mhm.
when we think about habits, you can think about it as like your brain is a mountain and you are blazing a trail, right? So you are blazing the go, go, go trail over and over and over. And the more you tread that trail, the clearer it gets, right? You're stomping down weeds and whatever foliage is growing, and you're making it more and more accessible. Now, any new habit, and this goes for every habit, you're going to have to blaze a new trail. And it may be longer, a longer route to the same place, but it may be more scenic, but you still have to tread it. And the first time you tread it, you may be like all motivated, right? And you start cutting down some of that foliage and you blaze a trail. And then you come back the next day, you're like, ugh, that looks really weedy again. I might just go this way that's already like really clear. But you have to keep clearing that path over and over and over. It's not an overnight kind of thing, but slowly, incrementally, you can lead by example for your whole family. And what I've started to do is incorporate a mindfulness practice and a gratitude practice in the mornings. And that sounds like a big deal, but it literally takes me 10 minutes. And so I get up 10 minutes earlier. I have a gratitude journal on my nightstand. And so I can't forget it. It's like a cue. That's my environmental cue for that. And I sit down and I try to feel my feelings of gratitude. And even if I don't feel them, I write them down. And I do I do at least 60 seconds of stillness. And that sounds like, oh, well, I can't meditate for an hour, so I might as well not do it, right? Like we end up with that all or nothing kind of thinking, but really, like I can do anything for 60 seconds. I can find 60 seconds in my day. I will sit there for 60 seconds. I'll set a timer. There's a great app called Insight Timer that is free. There's Calm, the Calm app. I incorporate 60 seconds of stillness in the app during every single lesson. So it's embedded in there. But really having those two things, just a little bit of stillness, a little bit of gratitude, slows you down. You just slow your roll. And that, I mean, it's remarkable to see how that influences the rest of your family. And so, and also it mediates your reactions too. If you're having really big responses to small problems, like for example, if my kid was losing am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah. That's all the words.
If my kid was losing his shit about, I don't want to wear these shoes or whatever, I would want to lose my shit too.
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah.
Adding that practice in the morning has just given me an extra second between the trigger and my response. And that extra second helps me be a more chill mom. And not all the time. I am by no means perfect.
I like to call that like being the emotional leader. That's something that I talk a lot about, like being the emotional leader in your family and in business, like as realtors. That's something that Cheryl and I have to do quite a bit with our clients and everybody else, is like being that emotional leader for your kids, for your family. It's really hard. And I think sometimes I'm better at it in work than I am at home, right?
I am always better at it at work than I am at home. Always better at
Yeah.
work. I throw 3-year-old temper tantrums at home. I kind of can't believe my behavior sometimes. And then I'm like, oh, and I'm the one teaching these people. Like, of course they're throwing a fit. Like occasionally I'll hear me coming out of one of their mouths and it's not attractive. And I'm like, gosh, damn it. Like I need, and I'm in therapy for this. This is something I'm actively working on. I have a few like lines that I can say to myself. I used it this morning. Like, this is not an emergency. Like the kids aren't doing what I want them to do. This is not an emergency. And then also like saying out loud, I'm really frustrated. what's the worst thing that's going to come out of this? Not really to be talking to my kids, like I'm really talking to myself, but I'm also trying to model how they could respond when they're in a difficult moment. And then also having a plan for the moments that get out of control, because 3 so close in age, one gets dysregulated and it's just like a snowball effect. And then before you know it, all 4 of us are dysregulated. If daddy's home 5, so then having a plan for what to do when those moments start to get out of my control. And what I've seen that do, like we change environment, we go to a different room, we know, like everybody knows what we'll do if that happens. What I've noticed that do for me is we don't get so far down the dysregulated path before I catch it. So I can kind of see things starting to escalate and I'm like, oh shit, we're going to the soft spot, and we created this spot that works for all of us. And, the other thing that I've worked on in the therapy is like including the children, the other kids that aren't dysregulated, let them also come. Cause it used to be that I would take the dysregulated child, which is typically the same child over and over. And I would take her to my room and I would close the door and I'd tell her other sisters to go away. And I was doing that in my mind to protect my other 2 children, because when this one gets dysregulated, she's hitting, she's kicking, she's clawing. I want to keep them safe. But what it's doing is it's taking me away from the other 2. So now what we did was we created the soft spot in a room where all of us can go. There's things the other 2 can do to entertain themselves while we are calming down in the soft spot. And sometimes calming down looks calm, and sometimes calming down looks like I'm bear hugging my child that's trying to beat the shit out of me, and we're breathing and like just waiting it out, and I'm staying calm. I'm working very hard to stay calm. And then at the end it's like, okay, does anybody else need anything? August, do you need a hug? June, do you need a hug? Like, do you guys have anything to say? So that, because she was saying, the therapist was saying, like, then she sees like the other sibling that had the difficult sister or brother, like they're in there feeling like, well, I wasn't important enough to my mom to get the attention. So like trying to be there for all.
I get the attention, right?
Yeah, like I'm not worthy of attention because I didn't misbehave. Or then even worse, we're now teaching them that like this big behavior gets all of mom's attention.
Yeah.
And so then before you know it, you have 3 kids all having big behaviors and then I'm like going out for cigarettes and never coming home.
One of the things that I started thinking about was, because I try so hard to be a really good mom. Like that's something that I really want to be, and I try really hard to be that. But I can obviously, like every mom, lose your shit. And I thought about one time, like, imagine as an adult, like somebody yelling at you to put your fucking shoes on. Like, I would be like, who the fuck are you? Like, don't tell me what to do. And it's like this way of like, imagine if we talked to adults the way that we talk to our children sometimes. They wouldn't put up with it. And while children are, not necessarily mentally and emotionally developed all the way, but essentially they're small people, right? Yeah. And so really thinking about that has really like shook me, where I was like, oh my God, if anyone talked to me this way, I would be like, you're nuts. Like, why would you talk to me that way? And it would be really hurtful. Like, and I would not be able to react in a normal way. I would not be able to stay calm. So to your point of everything that you're saying, it's like, okay, yeah, we do need to slow down, or we do need to slow down so that we can remain calm, so that we can address these things, because I wouldn't want anybody to talk to me the way that sometimes, when I get frustrated and angry, I talk to my kids, and it's heartbreaking to think about it, but it's also just like continuing to learn and grow and give ourselves grace and all that. But it's so crazy.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's like, if you mess up with your kids, don't worry, you'll have a chance to do it again in like 5 minutes, like to try again, because they're going to fuck with you again in 5 minutes. So, but then also I know that what I'm learning from parenting books and everything that I'm reading along these lines is we're the first generation that is then repairing with our kids after that. And how important of a tool repair is. And So while I lose my shit, then there's shortly later an apology. Mommy shouldn't have acted like that. I really lost my temper. And Alex often will take my more difficult child away. She's not more difficult, but she's more difficult for me. She's easier for Alex, where Alex has more trouble with a different child because we're each like, she's me. That's the problem, is she's me. And so he'll take her away. And then when he brings her back more regulated, he always makes her apologize to me, which is whatever. Like, I'm not going to critique the way he's parenting, but I then am like, mommy's very sorry, actually. Like, I'm very sorry. I shouldn't have treated you like that. That was too big of a reaction. I lost control of my temper, humanizing myself. And sometimes I wonder, like, Colleen, we've had this conversation, like that moment where you realize your parent's a human.
Yeah, it's hard.
And like how shocking that is. I hope that by repairing with my kids, they're going to grow up knowing I'm human.
Yes.
And maybe that'll take some of that away.
You both are so evolved. I'm so impressed with your work that you're doing on yourselves as parents and as humans. I'm really impressed, honestly. If I could offer a phrase to work on those reparative conversations, you might say, and this is from other people's framework, but when this happens, I feel, so affirmative or affective statements rather, and then because of something else, and I'll give you an example in a second. You might say, when you make fun of let's talk about bodies. When you make fun of my body, or when you make comments about my body, I feel shame and unloved. Shamed and unloved, because I really need to be accepted and loved. So having that when I feel and then because framework, those sentence frames are very helpful. And then you might just, like with kids, what we do is we'll use those sentence frames and then have the other person respond, have the student respond and say, "Oh, I didn't know you felt that way." And then they in turn will provide their own sentence frames for how they felt when they probably felt wronged in some way, which is why they said whatever they said. And then you can use the nonviolent communication framework to make a simple request. So when this happened, I felt, because I really want to be loved, I'd like to make the simple request that you don't comment on my body anymore. And I'd really appreciate it. Yeah.
My kids are always talking about how big mom's butt is, or why does why's your tummy look like there's a baby in it, or whatever they might say. And I just tell them, well, first of all, this is what mommy's body looks like right now. And all bodies change. Mommy's body hasn't always looked like this, and mommy's body will not always look like this, but this is what my body looks like right now. And it's like, I don't want to talk about my body. I don't think we need to talk about the way my body looks. It's not important. But I think that more powerful would be to use that, and it would humanize me to them. But the other probably part of this also is, I kind of spoke to it earlier, like we'll have another opportunity to do it right in a few minutes because they're going to do it again. These kids, they're not, that part of their brain is not developed until they're like 25. So appropriate expectations around the fact that like we're going to have a lot of these conversations and go through a lot of these experiences over and over and over, because they just simply are not fully developed yet. And it'll look different at different ages, but setting that appropriate expectation with myself, and I'm talking to me, you guys can just listen to me like figure out how to parent right now, but setting the appropriate expectation that it's developmentally appropriate the way they're behaving. And it's my job, here's Dr. Becky and Big Little Feelings, to be a strong and confident leader. And I'm going to have to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And be willing to experience that over and over and over again. Like that's also a willingness on your part.
3 of those children have come out. So I'm going to have to, or have to give them away. Like I already signed up for it. And I think that like most people don't understand how hard parenting is. I remember telling someone recently, oh, you have to teach them everything. Like you teach them how to go to the bathroom in a potty. You teach them the appropriate way to say please and thank you. Like you literally are teaching these small, beautiful, amazing, difficult little humans everything. It is not a small job that we've taken on. And I took on 3 very close in age. So I'm trying to give myself a lot of grace because of that, realizing that like I don't have a 4-year age gap where this child has developed to this point and can be helpful in teaching this. I'm kind of still teaching you something that's just slightly a smidge ahead of what I'm teaching your sister, which is just a slightly ahead of what I'm teaching your sister. And then now you feel pissed because she gets away with more than you do because you're not far enough ahead to realize you're still really close and you're still all learning this together.
Yeah.
And dear Lord, send wine and help. And then make good food choices and like don't forget to exercise.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And make sure
and
to
I
put
was just
lipstick on and mascara and put your heels on. You don't want to be not sexy for your husband, right? If in heteronormative whatever
Mhm.
world.
And
heels on
don't forget to
and
coconut
look
oil.
thin, but don't be too tall because if you're too tall, that's not good either. And like also be thin, but don't be too thin, but don't be fat, but don't, but also have big boobs and a butt
And love your body. And love yourself no
and
matter
love
what.
yourself and love your children and make meals, healthy meals. Like that's, I mean, I'm sure this is why, Miriam, you have like, you have this profession, right? You have this because like this too much, y'all. Like all these things that we're supposed to do and to be fair, like I want to say these are choices that I made. I made a choice to be married. I made a choice to have my children. Like I made a choice to be a working parent. Like all choices that I've made. But holy shit, like there's no roadmap. There's no. I mean, my mom used to say this all the time, and I hated when she said it. But she's like, "There's no instruction manual when you have a kid. Like they don't pop out with a book." Because no matter how many parenting books you read, each kid is so different and so special and so individualized. And when you have multiple children, like Miriam, you have 5, we each have 3. Each kid, none of them are the same. What the hell's up with that? Like, that's super challenging.
If I could tell you how many like foot and mouth moments I had in retrospect, like we have these meetings in school, SST, they're student success or student study team meetings. And I would have parents being like, oh, my 11-year-old still sleeps in our room and is, nervous and all these things. And I'm like, oh no, you cannot keep that going, and and then I'm having a foot and mouth moment, 10 years later or 11 years later when I have my 11-year-old and he's on my floor because that's what he needed that week,
I heard a saying once that said I never ate so many words until I became a parent. And when I heard that, this was before I had children, I became very aware of you don't get to have an opinion on something you've never experienced. Like you can have it, but you're like you don't it's unbased. It's so I really, really tried after that. And still, like, I know my experience as a parent in my house with my 3 children and with my husband and with our au pair and with the luxuries that we have and the deficits that we have. We don't have family here, but there's like it's pros and cons how we're doing this. And like Miri, you have a different experience. Colleen, you have a different experience. Like we're all who am I can't I've never walked a mile in either of your shoes. I don't get to have an opinion on how you're doing something. We're all just doing the best we can in our current set of circumstances, and that's enough. And then we just need that moment of still so that we can have that pause between the trigger and the reaction so that we can react better, because I do feel like in the moments where I'm flying off the handle, it's the things that there's not a minute to respond. Like it's somebody's going to get hurt or somebody's hurting or someone's going to fuck up my hardwood floors or, it's like, I just have to like stop something. And those are the reactions that I'm the least proud of. If I can
Sure.
take a minute and be mindful and slow down. And I guess maybe that's like, yes, I need to stop the kids from hurting each other. But also, are they going to hurt each other that bad in like a millisecond it takes me to like recenter and ground? Probably not. Like nobody's got a knife. I mean,
maybe they do.
I hope
they
not.
might.
Not today.
Not today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's great. How much damage is going to happen? And we do have to, I mean, I won't tell you where I work, but sometimes at school I have to sort of, I'm not going to get in the middle of everything. Like if they're little kids and they're, doing something, and if I am just going to make it worse, or if my presence there, like to intervene, is going to get me hurt and them hurt, like I'm just going to step back and I'm like, okay, take a moment and okay, how bad could this possibly be? Let's evacuate everybody else from the classroom. Okay, they're starting to throw iPads. Okay, they're starting to throw chairs. Okay, well, if I restrain this child, is that going to be more traumatic, or is that like how much harm can they do themselves versus property is just property, and I know that it can be expensive, but you just at least have a second to like take that step back, take a beat.
I agree. Yeah. My sister works in a similar environment as you do, and she's gotten hurt a lot of times, and like restraints can go very wrong. Like the demographic that you're working with, I can't like bless you for what you're doing because it's such an important job and it's incredible. And I know that a lot of people that work in the environment feel like you're kind of the lucky ones, although I know there must be burnout and exhaustion. But anyhow, thank you for doing what you're doing in the schools. Yeah. And thanks. But I do know, like, I've been watching like different people on Instagram and stuff, like the tools you're using with those students to like reshape behaviors or teach them tools and skills are applicable in all of our lives, even if we don't have a disability like that. It is so interesting to know that and see that. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, I'm just so grateful we had you here.
Yes. Miriam, I feel like we need to have you on again because I feel like there's lots of things that we could continue to chat with you about.
Oh, I'd love it.
So tell us where we can find you. Tell us what is your Instagram or what is your app again? Tell us that one more time.
I'm at mindfulmiri.com. It's mindful is MINDFUL. And then the second word, it's all one word, but MIRI. Miriam is my full name, but I go by Miri sometimes. So mindfulmiri.com is the website. I am mindful_Miri at Instagram. And the app is Mindful Miri on Apple and Google. And I also recently, talking about burnout and teachers, I started a nonprofit for teacher burnout, and I am currently burnt out. So I have firsthand experience. That's another conversation for another day. And that is, the website for that is awesomeeducators.org.
Okay,
great.
I'll put all of that in the show notes to share.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and for sharing with us and for listening to all of Cheryl and I's problems.
Oh no, I don't love it, but I love being the sounding board. I know. I'll invoice you your co-pays. No, I love being a sounding board and supporting.
Wonderful.
I think that we all do the best we can. Yeah. With the situations we're given.
And we get to try again in 5 minutes. So don't worry too much. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Ladies. It's been a pleasure.
And we'll talk soon. Bye.
Sounds good. Take care.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.